My name is Stephen King. I've written several motion pictures, but I want to tell you about a movie called Maximum Overdrive, which is the first one I've directed.
Wow. What in the dickens is going on around here?
A lot of people have directed Stephen King novels and stories, and I finally decided if you want something done right, you ought to do it yourself.
And who was driving it?
I don't know.
Curtis! It's coming after us!
It was my first picture as a director, and you know something? I sort of enjoyed it.
What is going on?
I don't know!
I just wanted someone to do Stephen King right.
You want a war? You got one.
I just want to get the hell out of here.
So come and spend some time with me and my friends at the Dixie Boy. Spend some time in the dark.
Please don't let us be in the dark.
Help me.
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you. And that's a promise.
You're going to get us in an awful lot of trouble, man.
We already in trouble.
Maximum terror.
Jesus coming and he is.
Maximum King.
Maybe tomorrow will be our world again.
Dino De Laurentiis presents Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for Prattle.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan. And in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Secret Ball Stories, where I invite guests to count down a personal top 5 list in high-fidelity fashion. And have we got a big, juicy hardcover for you of terrifying tales from the master of horror, Stephen King. For we here today, this circle of, we'll say friends. We'll say friends. We're not necessarily enemies, not yet, but we may be at the end of this podcast. And we're going to list our top 5 favorite Stephen King adaptations, be they comics, movies, TV, whatever. And we have joined with us today in this sacred of ceremonies. We have Paul Mellor, one of my best and most ardent fans, also one of our givers on Patreon, which we are very, very thankful for. Welcome, Paul.
Hi there. Hello.
Hello.
Great to be here.
I'm very glad to have you on. I'm very excited that you picked this topic because I think it's going to be a very interesting topic. And we also have Dennis, and he is also here.
Thanks. Hello.
He is here as per usual as my little Igor in my little Frankenstein's monster of a podcast. Welcome back, Dennis. It's good to see you, or not see you rather.
It is always a pleasure, never a chore.
So we've got an interesting set of people because we have Paul, who absolutely adores Stephen King, and this was his choice as he's a big fan. And I said, yep, sounds good. Let's go for it. I'm kind of middle of the road. I kind of like some Stephen King stuff and some other stuff I'm not that keen on. But Dennis absolutely despises Stephen King. So it's going to be a very balanced podcast, I believe. But Paul, before we get started, can you tell us why you love Stephen King so much?
Well, I guess he just covers so many genres. He was definitely my first foray into horror, was through one of the things we're going to talk about today, through Stephen King. I know that's probably what he's most known for. But then the fantasy stuff, I think one of the earliest books I had bought for me was a Stephen King. It was a big hardback book called Eye of the Dragon, I think it's called. and I don't have the book anymore for whatever reason. I lost it when I grew up, as you tend to do. But I remember that being a fantasy book, and then it tied into other books I read when I was growing up. And as I got older, the Dark Tower series. It's just got loads of media. He seems to be all around us, and he's having a bit of a resurgence as well at the moment. So it's always on Netflix and Amazon Prime, and there's I think a new series started this week. So it's really enjoys his work. I know. I'm following him on Twitter. He's good on Twitter. He's good fun.
Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff he posted. I think he went out after old J.K. Rowling recently, which I was happy to see, because she's a bit of a nasty piece of work at the moment. Maybe she always was. Who knows? But you're right. He is having a bit of a renaissance. There's a lot of remakes and adaptations. More, I think there was over 40. I saw in the IMDb page that are coming out, which I'm sure Dennis is very happy about. I'm sure. Dennis, why don't you tell us why you don't like Stephen King so much?
Because he's shit.
please elaborate on those strong words.
Its books are always kind of too wordy. Not enough happens in it. He likes to describe too much. I think I've started half a dozen of his books and never finished them because, frankly, life is too short. I think his movies, the ones that everyone raves about, are only good because of the production values and the actors that are in it. I think if you take them away from it, they're shit. And this has been really difficult for me. It's almost like you've asked me to choose my top 5 X Factor finalists. I would struggle with that too.
I'm really shocked.
I just find, like, don't get me wrong, there are good movies out there that have been done, but the main ones that have been done well are kind of his novellas and his short stories, because I think people find it really hard adapting basically the tripe he writes on paper constantly.
Well, I mean, there's obviously a lot more creative license if you have a shorter story, so you can kind of. There's a bit more kind of. I know. There's a few adaptations, like Lawnmower Man was basically a comic book, and it was like, we'll take the name, we'll take Stephen King's name, and we'll just make our own film. It does seem to happen. It does seem to kind of haunt him a little bit. I think he's a very interesting man. He's had a lot of ups and downs in his career and personal life. But yeah, I'm keen on quite a bit of his work. I will admit I've never read a single Stephen King book, be it novella or whatever. I have seen a fair few of his films that are based on those, but I can't say I've ever read a book myself. So maybe this is the time for me to pick up one of those and
do it
and see if Paul is right or is Dennis right.
Do it.
Don't do it. I stopped reading Salem's Lot because I got that bored with the description of the street. I was looking for a rickety old stool and a bit of rope. He doesn't need to put so much fat on it, because when he writes his novellas, he's straight in there. They're quite good, but it's like is 900 pages, and you think, oh, this could have been done in like 200. There's just no need. Describing buttons and leaves falling off like the rooftops and someone's gutter. Do we need to know that? I think not. Part of reading is using imagination. I don't think Stephen King realizes that I like to use my imagination.
Strong words. Paul, what would you say to that?
So, yeah, he is thorough in terms of his descriptive writing, and the way he does describe things in his stories, I think adds to the imagination. Don't get me wrong. Some of the books I've read are probably overly long. There are some books in the Dark Tower series of books that are very, very weighty and probably could be trimmed back a little bit. But I think a lot of the work he puts in, it seems to just add value to this. And I think some of that filters through to the films or not. No, I kind of disagree with you, really. I think it's,
unfortunately, Paul, you're wrong. Give me a good James Herbert or Clive Barker or something like that. So give me something that you don't have to read 250 pages before actually anything happens. I must
admit, I struggled as a younger reader trying to access the books, because they are certainly like I think Salem's Lot was one of the first ones I tried to read, and I couldn't read it. I was too young. Didn't seem to sit right with me. But I can read that sort of book now, and it's you kind of get it. feels better. So no, I don't know. I feel a little bit differently. But he's equally good in in some of the comic book stuff he's done as well. So
true, that is true. I've read some of the comic book stuff, but I don't want this to just be a discussion about Stephen King. We've got to list this top 5, but I thought we'd get that out of the way, and we'll see what Dennis feels about your choices and what Paul feels about Dennis's choices. We will see. But I'd like you, as the guest and as your first time on the podcast, Paul, I'd like you to go first. So what is the first Stephen King adaptation in your top 5?
Okay. So just to set the scene, my top 5 sort of based on sort of the things that I watched as a younger person that sort of stuck with me. And then I've been back to and watched several times. So I've sort of the older adaptations, and they're all movies. I pick movies, so that's where I was just setting the scene for me. But my number 5 is 1983's Christine. She'll possess you, then destroy you. She's death on wheels. That was the tagline. Yeah, great film to John Carpenter. Quality directors. That's my number 5. It's about something wrong with it. A man dies on the production line, and then another guy gets his hand crushed, and then we cut forward to 1978, and we've got the story of this car that gets bought by this teenage guy at high school in America, and then how that and takes over his life and becomes a demonic possessed car that wreaks havoc on the kid and his friends. It's a really well shot. It's like the original Herbie. Well, maybe Herbie came first. Maybe it's a spin on Herbie, the Deadly Herbie. Maybe it should have been called. But no, I think it's got some really really cool moments in the film. Some really iconic moments. There's a bit where the car's been trashed by a group of the sort of local bullies. This guy spent the main character. Arnie Cunningham has spent weeks, months doing the car up, and it's absolutely superb, and it's influencing him. He's dressed all in black. He's rubbing off on his personality. It's taken over his life. These bullies, and it starts to rebuild itself in front of him, and he just says, "Show me," and then the car rebuilds itself. Lots of lens flare, and it's just a really cool film. Lots of great songs in the soundtrack. It opens up with Bad to the Bone as the car's being built, and it just sets the scene.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Christine. I saw it fairly recently, I think the last year or so. It was one of I love John Carpenter, so I was like, there's always like 1 or 2 films you end up missing out of the kind of filmography, and I was like, I've never seen this one. I'll give it a go. And it's very different from like what I would expect a John Carpenter film to be. But yeah, it is kind of like, it's almost like Herbie fully murderous or something.
Yeah.
The idea of a killer car is, it's quite, there's so many films about kind of killer cars, or like films like Duel as well, like those kind of things. They're on the road and the dangers of the road and stuff. Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's great. I like the you have an obsession, and that obsession can become too much. It can take over your life, and dominate it and destroy anything that you have a semblance of a life, because that obsession just becomes all consuming. Excellent choice, Paul. Very, very good choice.
I think so. I'm not sure what Dennis will think.
It's not a bad movie, but I like it because it's a John Carpenter movie, not because it's Stephen King.
Okay, so you think John Carpenter's eye behind the camera enhances that story?
Well, he did a lot of work, didn't he? He rewrote bits of it and changed bits and did this, that, and the other to make it a little bit more kind of the flow of the film change better. But no, I actually think it's a good movie. Yeah, it's not a terrible movie at all. And that scene, what Paul was talking about then, when the car rebuilds itself, is stands up really well today as well.
Oh yeah, the special effect on that.
Yeah,
and plus, how many films do you see where the finale is this this car, this gorgeous 1950s car versus a fucking like a bulldozer basically, and like that's like if you're a kid with your toy cars, that's the kind of like car battle you kind of wanted. You smash them together. So I love that bit.
Yeah.
As well. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. They used these 24 cars. The making of the film.
Well, I mean, you've got to smash those cars. You've got to smash those cars. You know, it's not like a Fast and the Furious where it's all CG nowadays for the most part. You know, it was actual stunt drivers, actual people, actual cars doing all that stuff. You know,
I think that's the thing about, again, there's all this the renaissance we're seeing. There's some great versions coming out. You know, and I do like a lot of them, but they are enhanced a lot by the special effects, and I think sometimes that can really embellish the story, but can maybe influence it a little bit and make it a little bit too fancy for its own good. I don't know. There's something about old school special effects that really makes things, you know, look well on film, and you can kind of tell a lot of the green screen stuff takes away from that, or can do, if it's done badly.
Okay, so my number 5 is a very, very similar, very much on a similar lines of automobiles coming to life. It is Maximum Overdrive. So this film is not necessarily good, but it is dumb, fun, silliness. It's not particularly scary, but I had a hell of a lot of fun watching it. You've got Emilio Estevez, you've got the Commissioner Gordon from the Tim Burton films, Giancarlo Esposito, loads of recognizable faces, and they're all stuck in this diner. And what happens is a meteor passes over the planet for like 3 days or something, and the energy this meteor gives off, some reason, unexplained reason really, all the machines in the world come to life, and it is absolutely mental. You got drawbridges just opening up at random. People are going down into the river, dying. One of my favorite scenes involves a little league baseball kids team, and the coach goes to get them some drinks, and this Coke machine just shoots out cans of Coke into the guy's bollocks and then into his head, killing him. And then a kid gets run over by a steamroller, and you see it. It's pretty gruesome, pretty brutal, and you see the whole damn thing. And I kind of love the ballsiness of that. And Stephen King makes a cameo very early on where he's trying to get money out of a cash machine, and the cash machine just says, "Fuck you." And I think Stephen King is kind of saying that to the audience a little bit, and the people that maybe liked some of the films that he didn't necessarily like The Shining or something. Yeah. It is absolutely mental.
It's a great choice. That's an awesome choice. That's one I haven't seen for years, but it's a really, really good film. Great soundtrack as well.
Oh, yeah, AC/DC. AC/DC do the entire soundtrack, and what's not to love about AC/DC?
Exactly. Lots of practical effects again.
Exactly, big explosions. You've got the cars. You've got this there's like a Rambo style gun just shooting by itself. I will say, not a lot of the acting is great. There's a woman in it who goes what I like to call full retard. If we're referencing Tropic Thunder, because she's like, "We made you, and that's basically all she does in the entire film. Yeah, again, paper thin characters, but bloody hell, what a concept and what fun. And I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and the main villain in this is a gigantic toy truck, and the front of the truck has the face of the Green Goblin, which I think is scary personally. Again, there's a little bit of Christine in there, maybe a little bit of Jewel in there as well. But I had a lot of fun with it. I can see why people wouldn't like it and would think it was a shit film, because it is, but I personally loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a lot of fun, and again, and Stephen King directed it himself. Coked up Stephen King, the best kind of Stephen King you can get. Absolutely off his head on whatever it may be. And he was like, "I want to direct it," but he said that people are like, "Why didn't you direct again?" He was like, "Have you seen Maximum Overdrive? I will never direct again."
Is that the only film he directed?
The only one, because he produced it as well. There's a great trailer where he's just looking completely coked up, looking at camera like, "I'm gonna scare the pants off you," and it's just like it's probably that trailer is probably scarier than the entire film itself. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. Again, not necessarily the scariest, but it's a dumb. If you've got an hour and a half to just have a bit of fun with, that is
Yeah.
the film to have some fun with. It's definitely one of those. Yeah, I love it. Dennis, have you any thoughts on Maximum Overdrive?
Yeah, it's cool.
See, I don't think you hate Stephen King as much as you think.
I watched it many, many years ago. And for the same reasons you are, they kill a little league team with cans of Coke. What's not to love about it? I hate children, so it's great. And the soundtrack's great. Yeah. Well, I like my daughter and I like your daughter, but apart from that, I pretty much hate every other child on the planet.
Bloody scum. Get them killed.
Yeah.
Get them killed.
But
Get
no,
'em dead.
it's the soundtrack's great. Growing up in a house with Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Metallica, rock music and stuff. It was good to see it in a movie. I love the Green Goblin truck. It's very iconic. And I agree with you with the acting. It's not great, but it's entertaining. It's entertaining. It's 90 minutes as well. The one good thing about a lot of the early Stephen King films, they're only 90 minutes long.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of the new ones. Every film that comes out these days seems to be 2.5 hours. So.
True. That is true. Most of the comic book films, they're all at least, well, look at the Snyder Cut. If we're talking long films, that is one long film.
Exactly. But you don't always need, length isn't everything.
That's true.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, and Dennis has said the same about Stephen King's books. Some of them are maybe a bit too long.
Maybe.
But speaking of Dennis, let's crack on with his first of his 5. What would that be? Or Dennis's isn't necessarily top 5 best Stephen King adaptation. It's the top 5 least shit Stephen King adaptations, I think.
Yeah, and I've gone kind of. I've not gone for the big ones like Misery and stuff like that because everybody's seen them. Everyone kind of has opinions about them. I've gone for maybe a little bit more obscure ones apart from one, but I'm starting off with Thinner. Bit of Thinner. It's a bit of body horror, which I quite like. Absolutely silly as fuck. It just makes no sense at all. The fat suit when the guy comes out, the lawyer comes out to start off with, it just looks like a fat suit. It makes kind of like any other fat suit look state of the art.
Even Big Mama's house looks better than that.
Yeah, and it's got some like really weird scenes in it, and he's always manic, so he's obviously always on sugar. But every time you see him, his eyes are going everywhere. The lawyer and stuff. So the basic premise is the lawyers. This just proves that no good comes from oral sex.
Oh, of course, he crashes the car into the
because you've got like Army of the Dead, and this one now, which proves oral sex is dreadful.
Yeah,
especially when driving.
Yeah,
and
you could
basically some gypsies move in, which is the kind of racism-y type stuff towards these gypsies is like
it's quite
proper kind of.
It's the one thing that hasn't aged well about that is the kind of traveling folk gypsy Romani,
and they kind of gives him like there's a penny, he goes sure to shows a front bum or whatever, and she's actually really hot as well. One of the gypsies in it, and she does throw this and she a little bit of magic-y stuff. But basically, the premise is he runs over this old gypsy lady, and because he's a lawyer and quite in with the crowd, he kind of gets off with it. Well, he does get off with it. Even the police officer who goes to the scene doesn't even breathalyze him, doesn't do any of that. So he basically gets away with it. As they come out of court, this old gypsy person just touches his face and says, "Thinner." But then he starts losing weight, which, we all want to do. But he loses it quite fast. And he starts piecing it together that other people within that courtroom, the policeman, the judge, they've also been touched by this gypsy type person. And they're also experiencing some sort of body horror. So you've got one who's turning into kind of like a lizardy, leathery face thing. You got another one whose face is full of boils and hands are fat and joining together and stuff. So he kind of pieces it all together. No one believes him. His doctor is probably banging his wife, but you would, wouldn't you? Because it's just one of those things in these books. And it's just, I like it. I liked it because it's absolutely stupid and silly. And there's the scene at the end, because basically, spoiler, he gets given a pie with this blood in it, and the gypsy guy says to him, you know, whoever eats this, you pass on the kind of curse to it. His adultery wife gets to eat the pie first, and he wakes up in bed with her, and she's like all disappeared and stuff. He's looking a little bit lovely, and then his daughter eats the pie, but you don't see what happens to her. But then the doctor turns up, and he kind of it's almost like he gives you a wink. So he lets the doctor and says, "No, come and have some breakfast pie with me." And he almost looks at the camera and goes, "Yeah," and shuts the door.
He looks like he's going to eat the pie, doesn't he? And then the doctor turns up.
Yeah, and the doctor turns up and gives him the pie. Like I know in the novella, he and his daughter eats the pie. The producers didn't like the ending. They thought it was a bit too bleak. I'm not bothered either way. I just think it's fun. I just think it's really, really silly. I quite like the effects when he's losing his weight. You know, his ribs there's a bit where he lifts his top up and his ribs are showing, and all the shading and stuff on it. And I think, again, the acting is camp. He's so camp. I can't remember his name, but he's unbelievably camp in it. And the first 20 minutes when his eyes spinning around every time he sees a pretty lady, he's like, oh.
He's a bit of a goofball, isn't he? He's a bit like, he's a little over the top about it. He's like, oh, well, I'm a bit fat. I'm a fat man.
Yeah, and even when he's like losing weight, he's eating all these calories to try to put weight back on to prove it's something. And it's the way he eats as well.
He's hooked up with the mafia as well, and he's linked into them like a mafia.
Yeah. The guy from Criminal Minds as well. Yeah, he's got him off on something. But no, it's enjoyable. It's silly. It's not going to win any prizes for best movie in the world. It's one of the best of the bad bunch.
Paul, what is your next one?
My next one is another oldie, but a goodie. 1987's The Dead Zone. Again, another cracking director, David Cronenberg. It's got Christopher Walken in it as the lead character, Johnny Smith. Martin Sheen as a dodgy politician, Greg Stilson. It's again, and it's got a great soundtrack. Again, the eerie soundtrack by Michael Kamen. It's just again nice. It's a tight story. Basically, Johnny's a teacher, has a car accident. His life's all set up before this. He has a car accident, makes the wrong choice, goes home in a bad weather. Car accident, wakes up 5 years later. You know, with no disabilities, but he's got psychic powers, and these psychic powers unfold as the movie goes on, and he starts to get visions, and that's his dead, becomes his dead zone. It's a bit of a triptych of stories, because you've got, like, as his powers develop, you find his feet with them a little bit, from, you know, basically helping police hunt a serial killer to, you know, and that doesn't go quite so well for him, and then he starts to reject things a little bit, and he tries to isolate himself a little bit, but he's also getting headaches, and Christopher Walken's acting is really good. You know, he's bang on with it, and you can see he's really struggling with his pain. He's having headaches. He's also working with the doctor who helped him convalesce, and then he basically helps save a pupil of his. He's still teaching, but privately helps save this pupil, and realizes, oh, we can change the future here. And then the final part of the triptych, the final third of the third story is basically averting a nuclear war. He has this vision, meets the politician, and he's sort of like, it sinks into him that he can change history here. Nobody will understand it, but so he asks his doctor, so what would you do if you could kill Hitler? What would you do? And you know, his doctor said, well, I'm a doctor. I'm there to save lives, and he's suffering, so I'll kill the bastard.
He's like a Polish immigrant as well. And I think Johnny helps him find his mother, who he thought was dead.
You're right. There's a little precursor there where he sort of says, you know, and he starts to realize that he can use these psychic powers to find things.
Yeah.
So it's really good. You know, I think another one of these that Stephen King said was changed from the novel, but I think he stated that it improved and intensified the narrative, the way it'd been, you know, the screenplay was written, and it was really good. I really enjoyed that film.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my absolute favorites. One of my favorite Cronenbergs, one of my favorite Christopher Walken performances. It's dark, it's disturbing, yet it's like quite sweet as well. And there's an innocence to it. And to Johnny, you might as well have just called him the protagonist, mightn't you, Johnny Smith?
Yeah. What a name, Johnny Smith.
What an original name, Stephen. How did you come up with it? And you do see a lot of these kind of broken characters from Stephen King. They're either alcoholics, they're injured, or they're a bit twisted up about something. But I think Johnny's quite a likable character, and even Christopher Walken, who you see him in a lot of these kind of villainous or gangster roles. He brings a lot to it. Before he has the accident and after. And I like it's like a series of kind of incidents and events. It's almost kind of it's almost like issues of a comic book almost. You have the the issue of him with the accident and the emergence of the powers, then the serial killer stuff, then the new. It kind of just ramps up as the film goes on, and I've always really enjoyed that. And it's that whole. I talked about it in my Worst Politicians episode we did, the podcast. And Greg Stilson is one of the most kind of chilling evil villains. I bloody love this film. Couldn't agree more, Paul. What an excellent choice. Dennis, have you seen it?
Unfortunately, I didn't want this film to come up because I fucking love it, and I love the TV series.
I haven't seen the TV series, but
TV series is a little bit more kind of very formula, a bit like X-Files, villain of the week type stuff. But I agree with everything you're saying. One of my favorite Cronenberg movies. Christopher Walken's absolutely amazing in it. I think, you put yourself in those. But what would you do if you could change the future? What would you do? It's great. It's an absolute triumph.
See,
unfortunately,
I think you love Stephen King secretly, Dennis. I don't think you think he's shit at all.
I wouldn't piss on a movie on fire.
We don't mind some of his films. Some of the films.
Well, unfortunately, Paul, that was my number 4.
Was it? Oh,
yeah.
Do you want to talk about it a little more, Dennis?
No, I think you both. I think you both covered it. You said what I would say about it. I've seen it loads. It's one of those movies that whenever I'm flicking on TV and it's on, I will watch it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'll find some way to watch it. I always think that whole scene with the pair of scissors. Do you remember that scene when they discover the serial killer and he basically forces his head down onto a pair of scissors because he knows he's been found out, and that always sends chills up my spine. And again, it's because kind of you don't see it happen. You kind of go like, it's like when someone slits their wrists or something, you're a bit like, or cuts their neck open. It's one of them for me.
I will go back to one of my original points.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Cronenberg movie. It's not a Stephen King movie.
And I think that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about adaptation. We're talking about creative license, and we're talking about what you do.
A lot of it changed an absolute lot of and it did, like Paul was saying, it did improve the movie. The book is, it's almost like treading through kind of swamp trying to read it. Where Cronenberg kind of streamlined it and made it a far more enjoyable experience. But again, it's like I said originally, Stephen King ones. It's the directors and the adaptation what make it. But anyway, moving on.
Great stuff. Right. So my next one. So a lot of the more popular Stephen King films like Green Mile or Shawshank are not actually not really that supernatural, not really that horrific. I mean, Green Mile is supernatural and, there's other stuff, but a lot of them seem to be more not necessarily geared towards horror. They're more like a drama. So my next pick is actually Delores Claiborne, which I think is a really tense, kind of thrilling drama. We get Kathy Bates comes back, after being in Misery, and she takes on the lead role of Delores Claiborne. and she is a kind of she lives in Maine. Surprise, surprise! Like most of the books take.
Yeah, is it Castle place. Rock? Is it? No,
it might as well be. But she basically is this older lady who takes care of an even older lady, and something happens in a home, and she's implicated in the murder because this old lady falls downstairs, and then she comes back out. She's got like a mallet or a knife or something, and she goes to kill her, and then the postman walks in and is like, what the hell is going on here? And Christopher Plummer plays a police officer who investigated her the disappearance of her husband years ago, and she was heavily implicated and heavily involved and suspected of killing him. So he is determined to pin this murder on her and to say, were attempting to murder this woman. And it turns out that Delores didn't know this, but the woman who she worked with was very rich and put away a lot of money for her in her will. So that implicates her even further. And the daughter of Delores comes back to help her, even though their relationship is really strained. And it's a very difficult relationship they have. And Delores herself is quite not necessarily that nice to people. She's quite rude and abrupt. But you kind of learn throughout the story. Again, I don't want to go into spoilers because I think it's kind of. I'd like people to go and watch this. I found a lot of these Stephen King movies on YouTube. If you look hard enough, the full films are there, and this is one of them. And I thought it was excellent. It's kind of almost like there's kind of a little bit of a Me Too vibe about it. It's about like abusive husbands, children, protecting children from abusive husbands and things like that. How far would you go? There's a great line in it as well that they repeat. It's kind of throughout the film, and it's like, sometimes being a bitch is all a woman has. Which I think is an absolutely fantastic line. I believe this is one of Stephen King's favorite adaptations as well. And I would agree it is really, really strong. The music is great. You've got a great cast. You've got Jennifer Jason Leigh as the daughter, as the adult daughter, who is this pill-popping alcoholic because she's had some awful things happen to her in her youth and the difficulties with her mother and stuff. But it's really good and chilling in a different way than, a crazy killer clown or something like that. It's a very real, disturbing horror to it. Without being an outright horror movie. And it's nice, and it's a good kind of story about family coming together and accepting flaws in each other and just coming together in a way. But obviously there's still nothing's ever perfect, but there is, again, don't want to spoil it, but it's really good. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I haven't seen it. It's one I've just missed. It slipped me by. That's one I need to watch from the sound of things. Sounds really good.
Yeah, I've tried to search for ones that are a little bit off the beaten track in terms of Stephen King adaptations. I love Carrie, I love The Shining, I love some of the obvious ones, but I wanted to kind of delve a little bit deeper and see what I could find. And this was one of the ones. This is one of the ones I absolutely loved that I found. Have you seen it, Dennis?
I haven't. No, not all the way. I think I've seen snippets of it, but I've never seen it all the way. It's never really. I think it has to be a movie that you're in the mood to watch from the subject matter. It's not from what I understand, what you say, it's not a pleasant viewing. It's a bit like Sleepers isn't a pleasant viewing, but it's a good movie. So
there's elements of child abuse and physical abuse and mental torment and things like that. So yeah, it's not necessarily your Sunday night viewing, but I think if you have the time, you're in a good mental headspace, give it a watch. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think Kathy Bates is a phenomenal actress anyway, phenomenal actor, and she absolutely delivers in this role as well.
Excellent. I'll going on the list. Going on the list. I'm watching this week.
Put them all on a list. That's what this podcast is about. I'm making everyone just make a huge list of stuff they'll never see. It's a really good, something a bit different as well. If you want, something a bit more real and a bit more, relatable necessarily.
Yeah.
Dennis, you're next.
Cool.
Well, he stole my number 4 with Dead Zone. So do you want to go straight to Paul and then we'll come back around and I'll do.
Actually, yeah.
Unless you want to do your number 3. Yeah.
Yeah. No. We'll go to Paul. We'll do it.
Let's give Dennis time to he's still trying to formulate his hate for Stephen King, which I don't think exists. So Paul, if you're okay with that,
okay,
I'd like you to go on with your next one.
All right. So this one again, we're not talking Oscar-winning performances here. We're talking something that sticks in my memory, and this one is another early cheesy, very cheesy, but a goodie, and it's Silver Bullet, 1985 Silver Bullet, based on the novel Cycle of the Werewolf, which was based on a series of postcards drawn by Bernie Wrightson. So that's how it developed, apparently. I think it was a calendar. I think it's 12 postcards in a calendar, I believe. But and I've got the book as well. But it's a 1985 film with sort of stars of the day. Corey Haim as a young disabled boy, Marty Kozlov. You've got Gary Busey as Uncle Red. Gary Busey around. And it's told from the boy's sister's perspective, but the story seems to revolve around the boy. So you've got a really cheesy soundtrack. You've got sort of it opens with the work. It's set in a small town, Tarker's Mill, Maine. Again, when the first victim is a railroad worker gets his head torn off. It sort of sets the scene, and it's a werewolf film. The makeup's terrible. The silver bullet itself, there's a couple of silver bullets in the film, but it's basically what one of the silver bullets is this motorcycle wheelchair thing that the boy drives around on and can pull wheelies. And it looks like he filmed it for real. I don't know how they did this thing, and in just a series of murders that the wolf's obviously committing. You see these slayings happen through the film, and then sort of suspicion arrives around Marty has an incident with a werewolf, injures it, and then the suspect comes onto the scene. Some great it should have been called Wolf with a Bat. Werewolf with a Bat. It should have been a baseball bat, because it's the only time I've seen a werewolf use a baseball bat twice in a film.
Yeah.
To kill people. Yeah, I don't know why he's just not using his claws and his teeth, but he's at it with the baseball bat.
I'm a fan of this one, Paul, because it's kind of like, I mean, I know Dennis and I are quite kind of big werewolf kind of fans anyway. But I love that it's kind of like a murder mystery throughout like a space of I like that you kind of don't know for quite a bit of the time, and it's this young disabled boy that's trying to solve it. I think it's got a very Goonies type vibe about it.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly it. And then I say, and I don't want to spoil it for people, because I think I'm going to recommend they watch it. Dig it out. I think I had to watch it recently. I couldn't find it on. Maybe it's on YouTube. I don't know, but I ended up buying a DVD copy of it via eBay. I think it was just to get my hands on it again. But there's some real good tense moments in it where you think, is that the guy? Is that the werewolf? And then it starts to unfold. It's got the town starts to go mad. There's a bit of a lynch mob mentality about the town, and then it all culminates in a bit of a Gary Busey standoff with the kids. It's great. It's got lots of scenes. And I love a werewolf film as well. They really do.
Those Bernie Wrightson can draw the shit out of a werewolf. I love his gothic horror style. is amazing, that artwork he does. Just all the comic books and all the other stuff. Any of his illustrations are just top quality. So much atmosphere, so much mood in them, and you definitely feel it in this film. There's a couple of special effects are a bit wobbly. There's a couple of great kind of like sequences. Like there's the one where they're going out hunting. There's obviously there's always an angry mob. When they're going out doing their own vigilante justice, and they're all like, it's almost like it's like that scene in The Lost World where all the raptors are going through the cornfield and just pulling them down. And great stuff. And then there's a nightmare sequence where loads of all the people in the church start turning into werewolves and stuff. And some of them, that one I think is one of the there's certainly others that are directly off of the Bernie Wrightson artwork. So you're seeing on film, all right, maybe not the best adaptation in terms of technology, but you're seeing that translated to a film. It's good. At least they tried. They tried. They give it a good stab.
And again, it's not a long film. It's nice and short, sweet. It's entertaining.
It's fun. I think that's what we're seeing a lot of in our choices. There seems to be ones that are just, we have fun with them, or we've had fun with them. They're not necessarily going to send shivers up our spine, but they're enjoyable in a silly camp way. Dennis, your thoughts on Silver Bullet?
You know, I like this movie because I like werewolves, and you could stick a werewolf on anything, I'll give it a watch. And I do. I think it's great. I like the practical effects in it. I like the fact the wolf does use a bat, and he looks a bit like a bear.
He does look like a bear.
Yeah, he does.
But unfortunately, Paul, I'm going to have to set fire to your comics now because that was my number 3.
Right, well,
set fire to my comments.
No, but I do. I sat down here the other week with Sarah and Amy, and we watched it, and they both loved it as well. And Amy likes practical effects as well. You know, there's nothing worse than seeing a werewolf CGI. You want to see him in pain and hurt a little bit and stuff. Whether the effects are good or not, that's what you want to see. And this does it. And I do like the lynch mob mentality, and I do like the kind of small town. You know, no one believes they did it, and they did it, and they did it. So no, it's good movie. Good choice, Paul.
So it seems like we've got a lot of things in common here. You know, number 4 and number 3 the same.
Oh, see, it's almost like you don't even. I mean, are you sure you hate Stephen King? Are you sure, or just maybe good, great minds think alike. Maybe that's the situation we're in. Okay, so my number 3 is it's a vampire tale, but it's not Salem's Lot. It is called The Night Flier. So it is about a kind of tabloid, proper like dirty, filthy, exploitative tabloid writer. The opening scene, he's at his magazine's kind of office, and he's shouting at the publisher, going, "Why didn't you use my photo of that dead baby?" So he's obviously a likable character from the start, from the very get-go. Why didn't you use my photo of that dead baby? So we get right into his shoes. And there's a mysterious character they call the Night Flier, who is basically murdering people at these very small airports. He's going around, he kills somebody, he leaves, and he's in this kind of black kind of one-man flyer kind of jet thing, not jet, but plane. And the writer is kind of like, no, it sounds like this is bullshit and stuff. And there's this young up-and-coming female reporter who's like, he keeps calling her Jimmy Olsen because she's like, hey, I want the next big story. Come on, guys. So she's a bit like that. And he basically is like, this is not a business you want to get involved in. This is dirty, dark, and it can mess with your head. It can really fuck up your head if you let these stories get to you and these people get to you. It can happen. People can just snap. And he tells this dark story of this woman who worked and she just ended up killing herself. But eventually he gets more and more intrigued and more interested the more he digs into it, and it becomes an obsession. So he starts going down that kind of rabbit hole that he discussed at the start of the film. And he discovers that it is a real vampire, and the vampire like dresses like a vampire. It's like pointy cape and everything, and you think, oh, this is ridiculous, this is stupid, but it kind of works. And it doesn't overuse the vampire either. It kind of there's very brief glimpses, and again, it's more atmosphere and more kind of this oncoming dread. It's not one for jump scares. It's not one for that. And what I love is the kind of parallel between this blood-sucking parasite and this tabloid journalist who is also a bit of a blood-sucking parasite as well. I love that. I love that they kind of rub off each other. Rub off each other. That sounds pure filth. Pure filth.
Yes.
I'd watch that Stephen King movie.
So they have this kind of, he's like the vampire keeps leading with notes and stuff. It says, don't come after me, you don't want any part of this. And there's one of the best scenes, I don't want to spoil it because it's so good, but there's one of the best vampire mirror scenes I've ever seen, like used so well, and just it's so perfect.
You're right, you're absolutely bang on. It's great, that scene in particular.
Just so
really
good.
Clever.
Yeah, and I've not seen anything like that and it's a fairly low budget film. There's not much to it, but the way they did that bathroom scene with because it's all mirrors pretty much all the way down this bathroom, and the way they use it and just that the intensity, and there's almost like a homoeroticism to it as well. The way he kind of strokes his face with his big claw finger. But yeah, again, I don't want to say too much about it because I think it will spoil the film. It's kind of an A to B type plot. But I loved it. I thought it was great. And you've got Miguel Ferrer, who is the guy, Bob Morton from RoboCop, and he's been in loads of other things. And he plays a good dickhead. Like in everything I see him, I'm like, I don't like you, but I also really like you as well as an actor. But the characters
he's proper nasty in this one, isn't it?
He's a scumbag.
Nasty piece of work.
He's an absolute scumbag. So Paul, you've seen it. Did you enjoy it?
I did. Again, this is one that I'd not seen. It slipped my bat, and it's again, not one that I've seen sort of even on Netflix or anything like that. It's not one I remember, but it's really good. It's one of them that people should seek out and watch just for the pure joy of a short. Again, not long, but.
No. I also love the design of the vampire's face when it finally shows its kind of monstrous face. It's again unlike any vampire you've seen before. It's totally unique, totally original, and and there's hints to this kind of old school vampire. There's got dirt in the plane. It's got a coffin.
It reminded me of X-Files. That sort of era. It did. It felt like an X-File.
Yeah, it
I loved X-Files.
It's definitely got that vibe about it. I loved it. I don't know if you've managed to see it. Have you, Dennis?
Yes, I've seen it. I used to work in a video shop when I was a wee pup, and this came out, and the poster was like a hard poster, and it was the plane with the bat underneath it. And as you moved the poster, the bat would disappear and come back again. So I thought that was really cool. So I saw the movie. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's good. It is what it is. With his one big tooth,
Yeah.
like a big walrus or something.
Yeah. It's. I think I through children's eyes, I think I liked it. I've not watched it recently. I was going to watch it because on YouTube, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to give it a watch, but never got around to it. So I don't know what I'd feel about it now. But at the time, I remember I love werewolves, love vampires. So again. It's okay.
Yeah, that's fair enough, and I can see why people might not like it as well. Like I can see there's I think it's probably more of a budget constraint really, but I think the way the cinematography is, and I think the way the shots are constructed, it adds something to it. And it's I watched this in the middle of the day, but I was still like kind of gripped to it, and I really loved it. I love the intensity of it. So yeah, definitely go and seek that one out. It is on YouTube. You can find it in HD as well. So go and watch it now if you haven't seen it already. Right? Are we back to Dennis yet?
Yeah.
Finally.
You two have done a lot of talking.
It's your fault.
Well, this is Paul's moment to shine. He said, I don't want to take away from his glory.
True.
I'm going to change the orders of mine because I would have done Silver Bullet, but I actually want to talk, so I'm going to put one up a bit. So I'm going to do Carrie, but the remake. I like Carrie, the original one. Brian De Palma. I just don't think it's aged very well. I think it was one of the first adaptations Stephen King's, of one of his works. I think the performances in the remake are brilliant. I think Chloe's great. I think Julianne Moore's great in it. I think they've updated it correctly as well, with filming it, sticking it on like YouTube. And you've just like the Brian De Palma, you do feel sorry for Carrie. You do kind of, but what I like about this one, it goes into a little bit more detail about her relationship with her mum and the practicing the telekinesis and being a bit more powerful with it instead of just like, losing it. Like she does lose her shit, obviously, but there's a little bit more to it. And I think Julianne Moore's great she's absolutely mental in it. But very believable in it as well. You believe that she wants to, she sees the child as the spawn of Satan and all the rest of it. And all the teenagers in it, you want them to die.
You don't like kids in it.
It's not even that. It's just, they're just the worst kind of stereotype of people.
Stephen King does not like bullies. That's what I've learned.
No. Well, there is that. And when she does, when the blood comes down, I love the way it looks on her. It looks, you can tell it's been staged a little bit more. She's got a little bit in her eye. When she starts using her powers, that's cool as well. I like the blood coming off her, and the fact that she purposely tries to kill people in this one, not just kind of like dropping things down, and this that she purposely goes after people, which I like in it as well, because I like a nice bit of revenge. I think the ending's a bit weak. If you watch the alternative ending, which is a little bit more kind of to the bone. Watch that one, but yeah, I enjoy. I like her. I like Chloe Grace Moretz. Is it?
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, I think she's brilliant, and she brings such a charm and such an innocence when she's in the swimming pool at the beginning, and and that they're all going to laugh at you line, and it's you can see that she really, really loves her mum, even though her mum treats her like crap. But the end sequence for me is great. I love the end sequence. I love people getting the comeuppance when they really deserve it. And it was a moment, and they just stole it from her, and then she loses her shit. But she also saves people as well. She does have that still compassion with it. The teachers helped her and things similar to like the first one. So there is like those elements in it, but like the car bit when she sticks her hand out, I think is great. I like it, and I think it's one of those movies that came out and everyone shat on it because it was like a remake of like this much beloved movie. But from what I've read about it, it's one of those movies that kind of found itself in DVD and on streaming services. People have liked it, and like the IMDb rating's gone up and stuff. In fact, the IMDb rating last time was a little bit higher than the original Carrie.
Wow.
But it is very much for the Amy generation for me. This is how can somebody in living in 2000 and I think it was 19 or whatever, not know that she has a cycle, not knowing these things happen, not knowing, and it's that kind of innocence about it. You just want to give her a hug and say everything's going to be okay, and then when she loses shit, you're cheering for her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They set the story up really well, don't they? With that, giving a bit of background, so she is why she, the reason why she is sort of thing.
Yeah, which I think's missing from, it's in the book, and it's missing very much from the first movie. And the fact that she practices using those powers, she there's a bit when she's in a room and she's spinning things around her and moving mirrors and things. So she knows that she can do it, and she researches it. Goes on the internet and researches stuff and things like that. And I just think it gives this version a lot more meat on the bones for me, and that's what I like about it. I think you
bang on. I think you bang on, because I didn't rate the original too highly, but I think this one's better. It's an improvement.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
There is something a little like, I've not seen the remake, so I can't comment on that. But when I look back at the original, it is very melodramatic. It is very over the top. It is like, they're all going to laugh at you. They're going to laugh at you. There's it's a little bit much, like, and she gets a period and she's like screaming and obviously it's a very troubling and worrying thing, but I don't think it wouldn't come across like that. I think if it was in modern day, I think people would be more, I like to think people would be more sensitive or would be more understanding, but you never know. But
you very much get that in this one.
Yeah,
there is a hardcore of bitches in it there's people saying, I took part, but I feel crap about it now. People who want to try to change things and stuff, which you didn't really get in the first one. I like it. I think it's great. I think anyone who's not seen the remake and has this kind of fondness, because I think, again, the first one's a Prime De Palma movie. All the angles come up to the eyes and all this kind of like the screens when the bit
soft focus.
Yeah, and the screen being moved on its side and all that. It's very kind of trippy. Well, this one isn't. They use CGI in it because they do, because that's what they do. But for me, I just think it's much better. I think it shows. She shows that she's angry. It's pure rage that she's at, and it's not pure rage because of what they've done to her. It's pure rage what they've done to somebody else. And I'm going to leave it there.
Very good, very good. Sounds Sounds like one I need to watch as well, because I love Julianne Moore. I like Chloe Grace Moretz. So like when they cast those people in those roles, it made perfect sense to me. I was like, yes, why wouldn't you cast those people in those roles? But I just never got around to seeing it, unfortunately.
Julianne Moore is absolutely brilliant in it.
Yeah,
really good. Yeah,
she always is. Like no matter what it's here, and I just think she's one of the top tier actors going. Yeah, great. Are we back with you, Paul?
I think so.
Yeah.
Number 2, yeah.
Number 2, go for it.
Okay. So I'm going to be a bit controversial here.
Ooh.
And I'm going to present something to you as an idea, as a concept, if you will.
Okay.
So in terms of an adaptation, I'm going to choose The Shining, but watch it with Dr. Sleep. So watch it as an end-to-end concept. Okay. So Shining, a lot of people know The Shining, 1980 film. Great. Jack Nicholson, very, very iconic. Here's Johnny. Family alone in a hotel, and the hotel's haunted. It's oozing evil, and then it affects him. He's a recovering alcoholic, and I think that is a theme in there on Stephen King's. From Stephen King's point of view, written that way. And then it does differ from the book. And I think Stephen King had also said that he wasn't happy with the way that Stanley Kubrick had adapted it quite. I think there's some things they couldn't shoot either, perhaps because of the effects. But I love The Shining. It's a great film. I love the way it's filmed, the music, very atmospheric. And Dr. Sleep, read the book of this film before I saw the film, obviously, not obviously, but I did. And the film is very, very faithful to that, but tailored slightly so that the two make sense together. And I think Stephen King's sort of reconciled that, and I think he's even on the bonus speeches talking about that, saying it kind of makes sense now, and I like the way it's been done, and the ending of one film has been tweaked to sort of reflect an ending that he didn't get in the first film. But Dr. Sleep is essentially a vampire film. Yeah, there's a series of some vampires. I love my vampire films, but it's a follow-on direct sequel with Ewan McGregor playing the young boy Danny Torrance from the first film, or the first story, and what happened to him, and what he had these powers called The Shining, and what that means in a wider sense. And I think it's a love letter to the original. Certainly, Mike Flanagan's directed it that way. Feels Rebecca Ferguson's great as the big bad Rose the Hat in that film, and Kaylee Cooper, I think, as Abra Stone, is a great actor. This little girl who's got psychic powers and identifies with the older Danny Torrance. I love Ewan McGregor, and anyway, he's great in films. And as I say, the two back to back, I think are great. I've read The Shining as well, and know what's sort of missing there. And this again does a great job of sort of filling in the gaps. So I would recommend, watching them together, if you like, as an ensemble.
What one story? So that adaptation.
Yeah.
Two films tied together, two halves of the whole. Yeah, no, I'll accept that. It's cheating. It's cheating. It's not cheating. All right. Hey, I make the rules, so I say you're fine. I say you're good. No, that sounds good. I'm a massive fan of The Shining. Again, this is another one I've just not got round to, but I heard good things about it. I did manage to see both It films. I preferred part 1 to part 2 personally, but like everything you've said makes me again want to go out and view that, and I'd like to see how it kind of, because doesn't he kind of use the hotel as a kind of almost like a weapon, almost, or
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he goes back to the Overlook, and sort of picks up really where he left off. The hotel was never used again in the movie world after the events of the first film, so it's derelict, and he has to go and wake up the hotel as part of this. And again, there's flashbacks, and they use another actor to fill in for Jack Nicholson, who's obviously retired by now, made in 2019. There's a director's cut of the film as well, which is really good. The music it's the same music. So you've got the same atmosphere, bleeding across from one film to the other, but it's not a cheesy rip-off. It blends really well. They've spent big on it, but it's great. And again, it's a different type of film as well. One's, this is, there's vampires, but there's also a bit of a mystery and a bit of a they're on the run and looking for, trying to understand what these true not people, these vampires are after. And it's great. It's nice to see how they tie up. Some of the evil from the first film is in the second film as well.
Nice. Well, I'd love to see all the kind of Easter eggs and references and links between the two. Like I have been meaning to watch it again, just not found the time. But it sounds amazing. Have you seen it, Dennis?
I've started it, but Ewan McGregor's accent just annoys the hell out of me. It almost it's like House. 1 minute it's kind of like deep South American, then it's gruff American, then it's this American, then just do Scottish because I think you can do that. So I've started watching it twice and not managed because that accent just irritates me. Go on, his accent is irritating, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I don't think it doesn't bug me as much, but I know what you mean. If it's like bad artwork in a comic film, in a comic book. Sorry, if something like that disturbs you or it just takes you out of the film, then you struggle to get back in.
And that's. But what you've just said kind of makes me want to watch it. Again, I like The Shining. I think it's a great movie. I don't think it's a Stephen King movie. I think it's a Kubrick and Nicholson movie. I think if you take them out of the equation, it's a completely different movie. So it'd be nice to kind of watch that as a bookend as well. But I just need to get over Ewan McGregor's crap accent. It's almost worse than his Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Well, that film is just total dog shit anyway, regardless whether whoever's in it. But it's just awful. But that's the worst Disney remake I've seen. Just horrific.
Daniel, it's a tale as old as time.
Yeah, and
it's a song as old as rhyme.
Exactly. It's a tale you didn't need to tell again in such a bad way. And again, adding nothing to it, making it 2 hours, but feeling like there's less. How is that even possible?
What do they say? If it's not Baroque, don't fix it. Just on the side note, Beauty and the Beast is my favorite animation movie of all time.
It's definitely my favorite Disney. Yeah. Definitely my favorite Disney.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast is my favorite. I've got the soundtrack. I watch it all the time. I cried at the end of it first time I saw it. Love it. Move on.
Cool. Right. Well, we've talked about Beauty and the Beast. So moving on from the Overlook Hotel, I'm going to talk about another hotel, which has an evil fucking room, as Samuel Jackson likes to put it. This film is 1408 with John Cusack and Samuel Jackson. It's kind of an extended cameo for Samuel Jackson, but it's about, guess what? An alcoholic writer. Yay. And he's had a severe, like his child has died. He's having doubts about, he wants to know that there's something else after life. There is an afterlife. So he goes around, he goes to haunted locations, and then he writes books about them. And even though he's gone to all these locations and written these spooky tales, nothing ever scary has ever happened there. Nothing has ever occurred. So he's kind of still searching for that, still hoping, because again, he was having a bit of a crisis of faith. His daughter, I think, died of cancer. And he finds this room, and this hotel is like, you're not going in this room. You're literally, this is boarded up. And he's like, no, I want a book for this room. And it becomes this thing. And he's like, he's got to get in the room. He's got a book. And he's like, if you don't give me that room, we'll, the company he works for, like, we can sue them if they don't give you that specific room. And Samuel Jackson's like, you really want to go in that room, and tells him the story, all these natural deaths, all these suicides, all the things that have taken place. And he's like haunted. No, it's an evil fucking room. It's just evil. It's pure evil. And he stays the night, and it's the most tumultuous night he's ever had. And it is very much, there is something very much The Shining about it. and there's lots of disturbing imagery. There's lots of stuff happen. He has these flashbacks. He lives a whole parallel different life at one point. The temperature changes. He damages the room, but then it comes back, and it's almost like a time loop movie as well, because everything gets put back after an hour. So everything goes, no matter what's happened in the room, once that hour's done, it'll reset, and some music plays again. I think it's the Carpenters, actually. I think it's We've Only Just Begun. And yeah, you have only just begun with this film, because the second that music plays, you're in for a kind of spooky, disturbing kind of roller coaster. And like John Cusack he is one of my favorite actors. He's a very understated actor. But he brings a lot to this very, you spend almost all your time with John Cusack, and he carries the film, like absolutely carries this film. And I don't think a lot of other actors could do that. But it's fascinating. It's interesting. It's disturbing. It's heartbreaking, and it grabs you. Like the loss of a child and stuff, and the breakdown of a marriage, and all this other stuff that's going on among all this other spooky goings on. I will say this: I watched the director's cut, which I think has a worse ending. I was speaking to an ex-girlfriend who knew she saw on Facebook I was watching it, and she said, you need to watch the theatrical ending. And the theatrical ending is better. It's more of a kind of a resolution for the character. The director's cut has kind of some weird stuff and some off-kilter acting and a shit kind of jump scare at the end. But the theatrical ending, I think the only one on DVD and Blu-ray, I think the director's cut is the only one available, but the theatrical cut, the theatrical cut ending is on YouTube. So I do recommend going back and watching that after the film. And I think most people will agree the theatrical cut the ending is better, and it just works more. Kind of the character arc is more complete. But it's really good. It's really, really good, and it was really entertaining. And again, very underrated. Another one. But again, this is the one that's like, again, it's a bit goofy here and there, but it definitely will sink its teeth into you and grab you. So yeah, I absolutely loved 1408. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but
I think I saw it when it maybe first came out on DVD or video or whatever. It was a long while ago. I don't have any negative memories of it. I remember quite liking it. It's not one I've been back to, so maybe I need to go back to that one.
Yeah, I'd give it a go. I think there's definitely something for somebody in there, for everybody. I think there's something you can like or enjoy, even if it's a personal journey or if it's the scary stuff. But yeah, what about you, Dennis? Have you seen it?
Yeah,
don't like it.
Don't like it? No.
Nah, not at all. I think it's dull as dishwater.
Yeah. Well, to each their own. Paul, were you going to say something else? Sorry.
I was going to say it's like another sort of some of the stories are a little bit twisted tale. There's that room, you shouldn't go in that room. I think there used to be I can't remember which book it was growing up. There was one about room 13, in a hotel. I think it's there is a bit of something like that in the Shining with the room. Yeah. Don't go in that room.
Yeah.
There's evil in the room. So yeah, that sort of thing is pretty cool. That's another reason I like his stuff. So
yeah, very, very good. A lot of evil lurking somewhere, but you've got to go and find the evil, because that's not a story if you don't.
Followed up. What's John Cusack and Samuel Jackson followed that up with another Stephen King spectacular, Cell.
Yeah, I heard that wasn't so great.
Well, it makes 1408 look like a masterpiece.
Okay, all right then. Well, I might need to watch that now. Isn't it the mobile phones turn people into zombies? Is that it?
Yeah, it's so shit. It's so bad.
Talk about your heavy-handed metaphors. Jesus Christ,
it's terrible.
Yeah, probably not.
I'm not your number two then.
Oh God. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I guess we're back with you then, Dennis. Yeah, you got another one?
Are, yes, we are.
Okay.
This is probably...
Is this your last one?
Well, yeah, because I had Silver Bullet, so this will be my last one.
Okay.
One of my favorite movies, as well as adaptation, it's The Mist.
Ooh.
Oh, cool.
It's so good. Okay, the effects don't stand up particularly well, but it's the monsters are almost like a side thing. It's a very people-driven story. It's more how everyone kind of deals with what's going on and how they shift backwards and forwards. And the basic premise is a massive storm. This mist comes in, and the main protagonist, Tom Jane, disappears into goes shopping, and then this mist comes in. This guy runs and says, "No, there's something in the mist. There's something in the mist." They're like, "Yeah, whatever." And it basically, the mist is kind of full of these creatures, like big flies and monsters, and it's quite gory in places as well. But I think it's more relevant now than it was when it came out. I think the way they turn on themselves very quickly, the way they separate into 2 or 3 little nests, really, and the monsters are not as scary as actual people. That's what I get from it anyway. And it has one of the best drab endings of any movie I've ever seen. The ending for me is just, it's jaw dropping. And it also kind of, look at it today with coronavirus today. It's almost like they shut the door after the horses got out. It's very similar, They've waited for all these creatures to do what they were doing, and then they clear it up.
I mean, how many people do you see filming people in supermarkets, refusing them to let them in because they're not wearing masks?
Yeah. I look, and all the characters are great in it. Every single character is brilliant in it. I can't remember the lady's name. The religious note in it.
Yeah.
You want to hit her, don't you?
Yeah, and she's brilliant. And her kind of end is pretty cool as well. But it is, you've got a bit of racism in there. You got a bit of kind of like class issues. You think you're better than me because you got more money because you're educated. You've got the religious aspect in there. You've got the kind of classing when it comes to jobs. You just work in a supermarket. You don't. And also you've got this conspiracy that the government are trying to claim, trying to cover up this dimensional thing that they did. And even at the end, when the soldiers are kind of appearing, no one consoles him. No one goes up to him and says, "Are you all right?" They just walk on by.
Yeah,
I know they do, don't they?
Yeah, so, I think it's brilliant. I watched it again recently with Sarah and Amy, and Amy could not believe the ending. She was like, "Oh my god!"
No spoilers. No spoilers. No, but it's a bit of a downer. I'll say that.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit of a downer, but I think it's necessary. I think it kind of reinforces what all the movie's about. Like I'll go back to my original point. It's a character-driven story. The monsters and stuff in there is great. I love a good monster movie, as you all know. But it's the way people are. It's the way what happens when push comes to shove. How do we deal with it? Do we help each other? Do we do this? Do we do that? Do we not help that person because of the color of the skin? Do we not help that person because she's female? Do we not help that person because it's a child? And all this happens in a supermarket. Similar to kind of like, zombie movies and those sort of stuff. It is a character-driven story, and I think it shines a light very much on today's society as much as it did when it came out.
Yeah,
that was deep for me, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. They're in a situation, aren't they? They've got to deal with it, haven't they? And they get like that sort of film, like zombie films. It brings out the worst in people.
Yeah, it's kind of it's not the best film in the world, but kind of World War Z. The first. How that escalates so quickly, the attacking people in supermarkets and things and all that sort of stuff. And, in Mist, they're willing to let certain people go, because they're not worth it. These people can go, and I just find it more now. I've watched it. Like I said, I watched it this week. I think more now. I think it's more relevant today in what's happening in the world today than it was when it came out. I think it's one of those movies that everybody should watch. The series is okay. Not as kind of gripping, obviously, because they're doing it over different episodes, a bit more backstory. But the movie, I love, and all the performances are great. I would highly recommend anyone to watch it.
I love it as well. I think it's amazing. I love the kind of Lovecraftian aspect to it. That there's all this horrific evil and things we could not even possibly imagine, this indescribable evil just beyond the veil, just slightly beyond the veil, this very thin veil. It's great character piece, great designs on the monsters as well, the creatures. Love it to bits. Tom Jane's great, all the characters are great. Frank Darabont's done a lot of these kind of Stephen King adaptations. He's a big fan. Did Shawshank, Green Mile. He did The Walking Dead as well. I think they did a Mist series as well. I didn't see.
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's on Netflix. But what's really, it gives you the sign very early on, because when it's going through, because he's the Tom Jane character, he does movie posters, and he goes through and there's It, and The Thing. And that's almost like a bit of nod and a wink what's going to happen. The worst scene for me is the spiders.
Ooh, in the pharmacy.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of spiders. So I didn't like that a lot. One of those movies you start watching with your feet on the floor, and by the time they come out, they're up on the sofa with you, kind of thing. But no, I absolutely love it, and I enjoyed it as much, if not more, recently watching it than I did when I watched it when I was younger.
Amazing.
That's a great
Amazing.
Choice.
Fantastic choice, and it's one of my favorites as well. Okay, so I guess it's your last one, Paul, is that right?
I think it is my number one with a bullet, not a silver bullet. Again, this one may not be a lot of people's number one, but it's my number one because it sticks with me, and it has done. Is 1979's Salem's Lot, Tobe Hooper's Salem's Lot, which first aired in 1981 in the UK as a TV two-parter, and that's when I saw it. I was 8. I think my mum used to watch it in the TV, in the daytime. My mum would not watch this film today, but it scared the living crap out of me as a youngster. Couldn't sleep, but it's one of them that I've gone back to. I've got a soft spot for it, for sure. And again, not the best in terms of visual effects. There's no real gore in it. It's a vampire film about a small town, Jerusalem's Lot. It's more about the town and the people in the town as well, than just the vampire. So there's a guy there. The main character, played by David Soul, goes back to a town he grew up in, to write about this house called the Marsden House. The Marsden House. I think they spent $170,000 on a set for this Marsden House, which overlooks the town of Salem's Lot. And then there's James Mason as a mysterious Mr. Straker, who's opened up this shop in town, and he's waiting for his partner, Mr. Barlow, to come over from overseas. So they open this antique shop, and it sort of starts to bring everybody in from the town into this sort of this setting where there is basically a vampire infestation happening, the music's very suspenseful. Again, it's probably aged a little bit, but and there's some nice little jump scares in there. I think, which I think if you watch it back now, it's probably where they had the ad breaks. I know certainly between part 1 and part 2, there was definitely a jump scare involving a kid in a coffin who sits up. But it's it's not completely like the book. I think that the last part of the film it wraps up a lot quicker. The book is. The main bad guy, this Mr. Barlow, the main vampire, it's more embellished in the book. He's actual a talking character. In the film, he's a very silent character. Very looks like Nosferatu. But there's a lot of good aspects taken directly from the book. A lot of dialogue directly translated from the book into the film. I've got a real soft spot for it. It's just great watching this town sort of get taken over. Some real iconic moments in there. Vampires at the window, again, being parodied in lots of things. Probably, I'm sure I've seen it in The Simpsons. I've seen it in lots of things. There's the vampires themselves, these horrible orange glowing eyes, and are really creepy. Again, you don't see gushes of blood, but they're terrifying. And that's the sort of thing that used to keep me awake at night.
Great choice there, Paul. I watched Salem's Lot recently because I had a feeling, I had an inkling that you might pick this. So I thought I'd better see this. I love the work of Toby Hooper. I'll be honest, I don't think I like this as much as you do, but I can appreciate some of the stuff in it. I appreciate the design of the vampire and the look, the kind of almost like blue, the kind of like this blue color. I love the kid scratching at the window. I thought that was really effective. I love the bit where the vampire just pops up between the two people at the dinner table and bangs their heads together.
Yeah.
I love that. Just absolutely bizarre. I love that slowly but surely the town are all getting turned, and you've got James Mason, who's like the vampire's familiar, who's doing all the jobs for him and stuff. I love that. I think he's really good in it. It's pretty much brilliant in everything. And you've got John McClane's wife's in it as well, and David Soul gives her some soul down by the lake. It's very 70s. I will say that it's very 70s.
Yeah, it's of its age. So
it's of its time.
Of its time. That's it.
And I think for me, it was kind of like a pacing issue a lot of the time. And obviously, this was meant to be a mini series. This was meant to be for TV. It was meant to be episodic. So I think that because I watched in one big chunk, I was like, it's not something you kind of feel like you binge. I know it's not. It's been put together as a full film, but I'd say there's a lot of there's a few lulls here and there, but I appreciated what it was trying to say, and I enjoyed the performances, and some of the actors in it are great. I think it's George Zunza who plays the abusive guy, the abusive husband. He's great in it. Yeah, he's good, and various other characters as well. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. But again, I don't think it's one of my favorites. But I can see, like, again, it's stuff when something grabs you at a young age and like gets its hooks into you, you can't really forget it. It kind of informs who you are in a way. And it's clearly informed your love of Stephen King and the love of all these books and adaptations and his work on the whole. You can see that through just this little inkling of this film, and your love for it as well. Yeah. Are you a fan, Dennis?
Yeah, I like Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
It's I know the first time I saw it was cut as one movie. So I think it was like 2 hours something. And then I saw it later on as in the two separate kind of episodes. But I completely get what you're saying with the kind of when you watch something and it kind of starts molding who you are. Now, for me, it was Hammer horror and Universal horror. And that's kind of got me into horror. I love horror. And I get this. It's very similar. I watched some of it recently. I don't think it's aged very well. Like you're saying, it's very much of its time. But having said that, I go back and watch movies which haven't aged very well and absolutely adore them. So I'm not going to say anything negative about this because it's a very personal thing. Those films that kind of mold who you are, and I think it is one of those films.
I think for me, my kind of gateway to kind of horror was Predator, because it's basically like it was like a gateway drug. It was kind of like, it's an Arnie action movie. It can't be scary, surely. It can't be, it's not going to be. It's just him shooting a gun, surely. No, it's this terrifying, invisible alien dreadlocked creature hunter coming after you, and I was way too young, and I wanted to watch it though. I was like, I want to watch this, and I was like in bed like, oh my god, he's probably in here right now, he's gonna get me. And you're always protected once you put the covers over your head, so it's fine. That's your little force field. So
and it is I used to stay up. I was talking to one of my mates about it recently, and it was Sunday night used to be Hammer night on BBC Two, so there was an introduction to the West Two Hammer movies, and then on I think it was on a Friday night on Channel 4 they used to have Universal. So that's why. And the first time I saw Christopher Lee in Dracula with those teeth and those red eyes, I pooed a little bit. But it does stay with you. They might not age particularly well. People might say, well, they're shit compared to standards today, because I think a lot of people are spoon-fed stuff. Back then, this was proper scary stuff. This is what kept people up at night. And the fact it was accessible to 8-year-olds, was just amazing.
Great. I think my mum had recorded it, and she'd be watching it through the day. I'd be like, and I just, you're not supposed to stand and watch it, but I'd just find myself standing. Don't watch this. It's not for you. And then, as soon as I could, I'm watching it.
My gateway drug into horror was The Exorcist,
right?
Which is still my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
So that was that movie. I can pinpoint had such an effect on me, not just because it was scary, but the music and the kind of undertones and the whole setting of it. Just kind of, I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and from that moment onwards, I've always loved horror. Even shit horror, I love.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right, yeah, that was nice. That was a nice little segue we had.
Again, never watch the sequel. By the way, don't go there.
Oh really?
Yeah. I think this.
All the remake.
I never watched it. But they are making a new one. Apparently.
Yeah, well, they did a 2-part, didn't they? In I think it was 96.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Is it Donald Sutherland's in it?
Right. Is Rob Lowe in it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's shite.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's poop.
Oh well. We'll see what comes out. I remember the last thing I heard about Salem's Lot, the remake, was that Ben Affleck was attached, but I don't think that's the case anymore. But who knows? Who knows what'll happen? Right, so I guess it's just me then with my last one. I'm going to go with probably my favorite Stephen King adaptation, and it is the original Pet Sematary.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, it's again a very personal tale, a very kind of heartbreaking family story. It's about a doctor who moves with his young family into Maine, and we've got this lovely kind of house, but they live right next to this horrific road that's just got loads of trucks tearing down it, way too fast. And you got this lovely old fella who lives over the road. Lovely, nice, kind guy. Played by I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head, but he's the guy from The Munsters, who played the dad in The Munsters. And he's the best thing in this film by far. He's brilliant. It's not a Stephen King film unless someone does a Maine accent. And I think his is probably the best I've heard of people doing Maine accents, where he's like, sometimes dead is better. That sort of thing. And he's fantastic. So the premise is there is a pet cemetery not too far from the road, because there's a lot of dogs and cats that get run over. You can hear Paul's dog right now. He's obviously terrified. Speaking of dead dogs, it's probably my voice. That's setting him off.
Yeah, dog.
So anyway, I'll carry on. And basically, there is a pet cemetery that kids have made and created to bury these dead pets. But then just beyond the pet cemetery, there is an Indian burial ground, a Native American burial ground, which if you bury someone in that dirt, they will rise from the dead, be it any pet or human being, any living thing will rise, but they won't come back quite right. They come back in a kind of reanimated evil zombie form. Probably a bit more than zombie. They've still got the faculties about them, but they're just pure evil. And it's so, there's a bit of goofiness to it. There's a bit of campness again to it, but the main driving story of this is that the doctor's little boy gets run over by a truck, which is utterly devastating. And it's not, again, it's like it's played so seriously, and it's like I couldn't think of anything worse, like the death of a child, such a young child as well, this horrible accident. And it affects the entire family. It affects everybody. There's even a fucking punch up at the funeral, and the casket goes flying, and the baby falls out of it. It's horrific, horrible stuff, and really doesn't shy away from those kind of intense emotions and the darkness of this story. But the old guy next door tells them about a burial ground. First, the cat gets killed, and the little girl doesn't want the daughter to be upset, so he tells him about bringing the cat back, and the cat comes back, but it's just a bit of an arsehole cat, but that's not a big deal really. Most cats are arseholes anyway. But he says you should never bury there's never been a person buried up there and should never bury one, but then there was somebody buried up there, and they didn't come back quite right, and they had to kill him, burn this house down, and then he buries his baby, his toddler, up there, and the toddler comes back. And I love creepy killer kid movies, or killer kid movies, and this is one of the scariest killer kids I've ever seen, and it's so well acted. The toddler is one of the best actors I've ever seen in my life. It's so intimidating, so disturbing. And you believe every second of it. Like when he's slashing his mum with a scalpel and things like that, you're like, this is so messed up. And he's throwing the baby around the room. You know, there's a bit of like that Evil Dead sense of humor to it sometimes, where I'm kind of laughing at it, but there's still that overarching, just dark, gothic horror tale throughout. And it's I'm going to say this as well, much like Salem's Lot. Do not watch the sequel. It is horrific, like in a bad way.
Is it? I didn't think they're going to gone there.
Yeah, it's got Edward Furlong from Terminator films in it, and it's just bad. It's just really bad. And I think it might be by the same director as well. I'm not sure, but yeah, don't bother. I've not seen the remake, so I can't say anything about that.
I've seen the remake. I enjoyed the remake. It was good.
Yeah,
it was good. Yeah.
Good take on it.
It's like slight twist on the first story, or the first version of the original book. So it's good. It's
amazing.
I recommend it if you're not jaded by it and you like that.
No, I'm open to it. I'm definitely. I'll give it a chance. Very much so. Like Carrie and all the other remakes, I'll give them a go. When I get the chance. I take it you've seen it, Dennis.
I have.
Yeah, are you a fan?
I see it differently to you.
Okay.
I see it as a life lesson for a stupid dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because no matter how many times he's told to not do something, he does it. Very early on, watch your kid on that road. Yeah, of course I will. No, I'm not. Don't go bury stuff in that. I'm going to do it. Church comes back. Why is his eyes glowing? Oh, it's all fine. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be great. So for me, it's a story of how not to be a parent.
I think that's with a lot of horror movies. It's like, that don't go up the stairs, bitch, that type thing.
But it's kind of like, he gets his comeuppance in the end for being stupid.
Yeah.
I know it's a stupid thing to say, but if he'd listened to the guy right at the beginning, the kid wouldn't have got run over.
Yeah, the ghost of the guy, yeah. the guy who tries to save the bike,
yeah.
The cyclist.
It's a busy road. Now, me, Paul, both parents, would you let your kid run on that road?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
even
not.
After a near miss?
Well, the cat's gone, so
Yeah, so I tend to I look at it differently than you. I get what you're saying about it, Dan, but I just think I think the characters, his wife's great in it. The old guy's great in it. The kid, I agree with you, is fab. Good scary makeup and stuff. But it's just a stupid dad who, in the end, gets what he deserves for being an absolute knob.
Fair enough. Well, that's your take. I mean, you guys, I have no experience being a dad, so I am still an idiot, so it's fine. I'm allowed to be. I can be.
You don't have to be an idiot. If you would you walk out on the M62?
No.
Exactly. Why wouldn't you do that, Dan?
Would you be next to it?
They must have got a great deal on that house. They must have got a great deal. I just don't know why there wasn't already a fence. Surely there's been enough problems being that close to the road. Why isn't there like a little picket fence? Like that's a perfect kind of house for a picket fence, and they don't have one. And
the warning signs are there. It's an Indian burial ground. Don't do it. My cat's come back alive and it's slightly glowy and not particularly nice to stroke anymore. No. I know what I'll do. Is he Lewis? Is that what his dad's called? Is it Lewis?
I can't remember.
Or Louis or something.
Yeah.
God, no. The ending's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the ending because, he deserves everything he gets, the stupid bastard.
I think, again, I saw this when I was quite young. I think it was like a Channel 5, 9 o'clock type thing. And I just caught it and it just really grabbed me again when I was younger. And it's, it's a flawed film. I don't think it's perfect. But I think there's enough good stuff in it that you can kind of forgive those flaws a little bit.
I agree with you with the sequel. Oh my God.
Oh, it's bad. I will say my favorite line in the sequel is, why did you dig up my wife? Let's call him Clarence. Why did you dig up my wife, Clarence? And he goes, because I wanted to fuck her. That's Clancy Brown as well, who I love, and he'll make anything good. But even that film was just atrocious, terrible.
Yeah, I didn't particularly like the remake either, Paul.
Did you not?
No.
Well, I mean, the dad's written the same way, isn't he? He's doing the same stupid things. But
I like. Is it John Lithgow?
Yes. Yeah.
He's brilliant in it. He's really good. And there's a bit on the stairs which makes me cringe, with the knife. But again, I just think it's, I don't know. Obviously, we can look at movies all the time and say, don't do that. Don't go upstairs. Why is it when a murder comes in the house, you always run upstairs? There's nowhere to go. I get that. But to me, the dad's just stupid. He deserves what he gets in the end.
I think that's fair. So before we finished, I've got some honourable mentions. I don't know if you guys have got honourable mentions.
I can tell you the ones I don't like.
To the film.
Yes, we don't want dishonourable mentions, Dennis. We're after honourable mentions. Well, I'll tell you, you've mentioned all the ones that I had for honourable mentions, apart from one film, which I quite enjoyed recently, The Graveyard Shift.
Yes,
which is really fun. It's very cheesy, very 90s. It's all about a rat infestation. I personally have a mouse problem in my flat, so I can very much identify with those characters. But then what else is down there is a giant vampire bat. Brad Dourif, of Chucky fame, he gives this amazing Vietnam monologue about how much he hates rats. And you've got the main villain, and it's got another great main accent as well. Great fun, that one. So give that one a watch.
Dark Half.
Dark Half. That's a great one.
Yeah.
George A. Romero, that one, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. When he wasn't making zombie movies, he found time to do this. Again, it's writer who's struggling type stuff, but it's again, it's loopy fun. And
again, would you say it's the director's vision more so than Stephen King's work?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that's the thing with a lot of these movies. I think like I said on the opening, I do feel that writers and producers find it hard to adapt his words. And I know Stephen doesn't like it when they change his stories, but I think sometimes it's needed because they are very, very thick, and sometimes it doesn't need all that in there.
Sometimes some things in a book won't work on screen. Like that's why they're adaptations. They just, some things don't translate as well. From text, from prose to a script to on screen. There needs to be a little bit of fluidity, a little bit of there has to be a bit of a moving of the goalpost to get that into a visual presentation sort of thing.
What about the Mangler?
I've not seen it, so I've not
seen the Mangler.
No, I've heard it's not good.
It's not good, but it's that bad it's good category.
The Mangler, okay.
Yeah, it's you got Robert Englund as the campist guy who runs this factory, and some drugs in the factory get inside the Mangler that brings it alive. So basically, the I think it's diet pills or something. But it's worth watching for Robert Englund because he's proper camping it up in it. He's really good in it. But those would be the ones I would say.
Yeah.
But all the rest you kind of covered yourselves.
What about you?
Say, I think one that didn't quite make the list but was very close was Creepshow.
Yes,
the Romero one. This is a selection of small tales. Again, some of those scared the crap out of me There's a werewolf one. There's an alien.
Father's Day, the
meteorite.
zombie Father's Day. Yeah.
There's one with the bugs. It's a nice selection of little short stories, twisted tales. I like that.
Yeah, Crypto's great. Yeah,
I love it. My favorite one is the Leslie Nielsen one. That's my favorite one. Yeah,
that's good.
A great one. Something to Tide You Over, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And then one that's watch it at your peril, maybe. Dreamcatcher, just batshit crazy.
Oh my god,
absolutely batshit.
Wasn't that voted one of the worst movies ever?
Apparently,
I can imagine. It's just that's not a recommendation. It's just mad. It's got some. It's got Samuel. It's Morgan Freeman, isn't it?
Morgan Freeman. Yeah.
And he's just playing the character you wouldn't ever think he would play. And then he starts off as this sort of alien something or other, and then it just turns into sort of this massive action flick. It's just bizarre. It's just the strangest film. Doesn't have doesn't stick to what you think it's going to be, and probably should have done. Directed by Lawrence Kasdan.
Wow. I mean, Stephen King seems to draw a lot of good names, doesn't he? His work seems to interest a lot of people. Great. So I think there was some nice honourable mentions. I'd like to go on to our listener comments, if I may.
Go for it.
So let's go over to Facebook. And Bianca Brannigan, who is a friend from work, she says her top 5 is Delores Claiborne, Secret Window, Secret Garden.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's called Secret Window, Secret Garden. The Shining, Stand By Me, Sleepwalker, and Misery. That's her top 5. I think there's some good ones there. Nathan Allen Child says, Stand By Me is my all-time favourite. More recently, I found Outsider to be a good watch.
Oh, that's a really good watch.
Yeah?
That is top choice.
And Call Me Crazy, but I thoroughly enjoyed In the Tall Grass. Again, I've not seen those, but they sound pretty cool.
The Outsider again is another dimension. It's not typical Stephen King. So
okay,
a bit of a thriller.
Ooh, okay, cool. So moving over to Twitter, we've got Angry Andy Reviews at @angry_review. He said, "Here's mine, sir: The Shining, The Running Man, The Green Mile, Misery, and The Mist." And he goes, I know, no Shawshank. Yeah.
It's because it's rubbish.
Some people would agree, some people would disagree. The Running Man,
a lot of people's number one.
The Running Man is an interesting one because it was under his other name, wasn't it? It was under an alias. What's the word? Yeah, different. Yeah, I think that's the one. Pseudonym.
I think the Mist was as well. I think the Mist was written under a pseudonym.
There you go. So Tony Farina, so that's at Tricycle Boombox on Twitter. He says, The Dark Half, Christine, Misery, Shawshank Redemption, but number one with a bullet is Stand By Me. I've seen it at least 50 times. The soundtrack is perfect. Casting is perfect. Nothing is wasted. I love it so much. I was 13 when it came out. Perfect timing. So that's his choice.
Yeah, again, another example of growing up with a film and then loving it.
Exactly. If Stephen King grabs you at the right time, he's got you. Bloody got you. Yeah. So my biggest fan, I Am Jack's Musings at I Am Jack's Musings. He says The Shining, Stand By Me, The Running Man, Shawshank Redemption, and The Mist. So there's a lot of the same ones cropping up again and again, which is a good thing, I think. And Scott Weatherly at Scott Weatherly, he says in no particular order, It from 1990, the Tim Curry one, The Running Man, Christine, Carrie, and Shawshank Redemption. And I'll add a hot take, he says, The Shining is one of the most overrated films ever, apparently. No, that is a hot take. Paul likes it, I like it.
I feel the same about Shawshank, though. I have exactly the same thing about Shawshank. I think it's just massively overrated.
Cool.
I watched it once, but I've never been back to Shawshank. I've been back to that.
Because if you went back, you might not come out, Paul. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, that's it, yeah.
And even if you did come out, you might doing a bit of that.
Your life might be narrated by Morgan Freeman very slowly.
Very slowly. Andy Dufresne. Paul Mellor. I met Paul Mellor.
Brilliant.
That's my Morgan. That's my best Morgan Freeman.
Brilliant. That's really good. It's like having him in the room.
Okay, well, we've run out of time several times this evening, so we're slowly running out of time now. But this has been fantastic. Thank you very much, guys, for doing this. Paul, what a great suggestion. I know Dennis disagrees, but I thought it was a good choice. It's made some interesting discussions, and I hope people come away and go and watch and or read some more Stephen King.
Oh, thank you for having me, Dan. It's been a pleasure. You know, listening to you and Den is always great. Being in the middle of it is an experience.
Piggy in the middle.
It's great. Yeah.
Piggy in the middle.
Thank you very
Rose
much.
between two thorns.
Exactly.
I would agree with Dennis. I will agree with Dennis.
It's okay. At this moment in time, I'm cutting out the back pages of all his comics.
Cheers, Dennis.
So I know Dennis isn't currently on social media, Paul, but if people want to find you and follow you, where would they need to go?
Oh, I think you find me mainly on Twitter. I am on Facebook. I'm at the Mellor Geek on Twitter. That's my main for this kind of thing.
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah. And this is where I think I mostly kind of entertain myself is on the Twitter. I do a bit of Instagram, do a bit of Facebook, but it's mostly on the Twitter I keep.
Where do you entertain yourself? Are you sure about that,
mate? Shut up, Dennis. Shut up. Right. So again, nobody wants to find Dennis. Nobody wants to talk to Dennis. We know this. I barely want to talk to Dennis. So let's talk about my social medias. So you can find me at Secret Balls on Facebook. It's at Dan_ on Twitter, at SpiderDan Secret Balls on Instagram. And when you interact, don't forget to use the hashtag #PrepareForPrattle. And for everything else you need to know about the podcast, swing over to SpiderDanandTheSecretBalls.com on the World Wide Web to email me, read reviews, and learn how you can support the podcast. Speaking of supporting the podcast, I'd like to thank my patrons, including Paul Mellor, I Am Jack's Musings, Max Byrne, Tony Farina, and Scott Hodgson. Thank you for your continuing donations. It's very much appreciated and helps Prattle World keep on turning. So thank you again, Paul.
You're welcome from me. And your videos, your Patreon videos are very good.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
And guys, you want a bit of secret content, a bit of extra content, a bit more of me, because that's what everybody wants. Get on the Patreon, get subscribed. I'm doing the videos. I'm going to do my own secret podcasts as well, even more secret balls. So get on board. I've only just started them, but I think they're pretty good. I think they're all right. They'll do. But yeah, I'm really enjoying them, and people seem to be really enjoying them that are on my Patreon. So yeah, get involved, get stuck in. I've got over 100 podcasts now, so you've got a lot of material, a lot of guest spots as well on my website where I've gone on other people's podcasts, and there'll be a couple more of those popping up soon. But this has been fantastic, guys. You've been amazing. I know we've had a few technical issues today, but I think we've persevered. We've made it through. We've had dogs barking. We've had bloody Zoom going up and down. We've had connection issues. You name it. We've been on multiple devices. But we've done it. We completed it. We made it through the mist. And we made it to the other end where we'll now kill ourselves.
Nice.
Yes. So I've been Dan. You've been Paul. You've been Dennis. This has been great. Thank you again so much, guys, for sparing some time this Sunday evening. I know you've got work in the morning, but this has been brilliant. So keep on doing what you're doing. Keep reading Stephen King and enjoy some of those movies we've recommended. And we will see you next time for another Secret Ball Stories. Goodbye.
Bye.